have, so this is, let's talk about money, but is when I have the Autism Services Advisory Council meeting with the state. And so anyway, so that's like 2 hours of boring stuff in the morning, every morning, but it's recorded and all that. So not just for you guys, it just also happens to be the third Wednesday. We got a couple more coming in. Pretty good. Okay.
Could I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Andrew and Becca?
Yeah.
Where it's Macy.
Yep.
Where could we find the recordings of other classes?
You can head to my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I put all the recordings up, so you can watch all of them. Yeah.
Okay. And is it under your name?
Hold on 1 second.
I'll find it.
Oh, okay.
So we were, and again, obviously this is always like open, right? We try to keep it really open. This is always like for what people get out of it. So we don't necessarily, have this big agenda. Like we don't come with like preset. What we decide is really what you guys send us, or, try to have something semi-timely, as a backup too, just in case. So we were going to talk about, some spring cleaning and taxes, but then there's also the third round of stimulus that just came out and was just announced. So we wanted to, to offer to talk about that as well, because there's a few interesting things, but also if people had any, immediate questions, we wanted to take that opportunity to be able to answer them for anyone.
Absolutely. And I liked this idea too. I'm actually, it's convenient that it comes out at tax time, because now you can ask all your tax questions about the stimuluses and all those things. But I do like the idea that we'll talk a little bit about spring cleaning, because I think there are lots of little things that you can do to like tighten up your finances and stuff. So you might only want to do once a year or so. And this is a good time of year to do that. So I'm excited to talk about all of that stuff. I actually got my stimulus package, my stimulus payment this morning. I woke up to that this morning, which was very nice. But yeah, I'm excited.
So let me just hit on like a few of like the quick stimulus things and some quick tax things, and then we could do like the rest of the time spring cleaning if, taxes aren't too exciting. So like just don't fall asleep in the next like 15, 20 minutes. So one thing that was just announced right before this is they did extend the tax filing deadline until May.
Yay.
So I think I just saw that. So one of the people who works with me does taxes. So he is very upset because now his tax hell gets to continue for, another month. So taxes are delayed until May, which makes sense. The biggest news that I think is applicable to a lot of people is normally you're taxed on unemployment compensation, and a lot of people got the enhanced unemployment and unemployment. In the latest bill, you are not taxed on the unemployment compensation anymore.
Wow,
So
that's a big deal.
It really is, because a lot of people, I think, were also going to be surprised, right, at getting that tax bill for the unemployment compensation. So they're still figuring it out, right? People might just have to kind of redo it if people already filed, right? Then they would need to, I don't know. They're going to try to make it as easy as possible. Worst case, it's like a small little amendment, but people should be getting more money back if you already filed.
Sweet.
So, so that's a big one. The tax deadline's a big one. There's, obviously there's the payments, a few other things. For the most part, that's kind of, the couple big things beyond like, what are you going to spend $1,400 on?
Right.
So other than that, unless people have like some specific tax questions, those are kind of the big two stimulus things that I think are really important. The
You think there'll
unemployment.
be a fourth stimulus? You think they'll do it again or no?
Oh, look who,
Just curious.
no. So I'm saying, because the doctor's in the house, literally. So yes, but no, no. So I don't know. I mean, if you want to play, it's a pretty big stimulus. I think I saw somewhere that for the amount of money they spent on the stimulus, they could have just given everybody in the country $20,000. That actually sounds a lot better.
It does.
I mean, honestly, but it's really interesting too. Again, a lot of people aren't, right now there's just so much money. I mean, I think they need to let it, sit. I think we'll be back to where things were. Again, a little bit more targeted with some of the harder hit industries, like they gave some more PPP to, like food businesses or something. So that was interesting. So yeah, I wouldn't count on a fourth. It's kind of a weird catch-22 where if the economy's doing bad, then they'll do it, but then the economy's doing bad. So, but then if the economy's doing good, I'd be hard pressed to see another stimulus pretty soon. This one was pretty big, all things considered. The way they did it was also really interesting. The other awesome thing is adult dependents, right, were covered, right? So before, if you claim someone as a dependent, they were 21, 22, they were excluded. So that's a big win for a lot of people, right? Especially the disability community, especially. Yeah, I mean, that's great. Government lets you go out and spend that money too. So
yeah. It just, we watch it all happen and I know they're doing their best, but $1,400 is $1,400, right? I mean, $600 was worse, but $1,400 is just 14, And so the idea that, well, where is it all going? And what, how are we all, most of us couldn't even pay our mortgages with $1,400. No, it wouldn't even cover one mortgage payment. And so it's interesting because I know in the big picture, it is a lot of money. And in the big picture, it was a really generous package. And so, but it's interesting how it plays out for the solo man who's supposed to, then pay their taxes.
Yeah. So, and another interesting thing is they will adjust it. So if you made too much in 2019, but you lost your job for 2020 and you haven't filed taxes, you want to file by, I think it's either September or August, then you'll get it. So anyway.
Actually, I have a quick question. Yeah. So if you've already filed taxes, does that mean you will not get the $1,400 stimulus check or not?
No, I mean, you should, again, unless you made too much, right? But you might need to file again if you got unemployment compensation to get even more money back.
Interesting.
So, I'm going to give my favorite tidbit and then we'll move away from taxes. If you read, the IRS regulations, the IRC, which nobody does, and I might have mentioned this once before, you're supposed to report the value of items you steal as income unless you return them within the year. So if you're going to rob a bank or steal some jewelry, you should do it in January instead of December. So you have the whole year to return it and not pay taxes. That actually, it is literally part of the IRS rules and regulations. So if you steal, you're supposed to report it as income. So
isn't the general message that we're not supposed to steal in general?
Yes, which is why it's kind of funny and redundant, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that explains it.
Yeah, it's similar to how they got Al Capone, right? Because you're also supposed to report the value. People keep coming in. Cool. The value of drugs, right? And anything you make, right? So you're supposed to report the value of anything. So that's why stealing something, right? That's something that you should have paid somebody else for and somebody else should have got money for and paid taxes on. So that's why they want you to pay taxes. So anyway, if you're going to steal something, steal it early in the year. For somebody who just joined and that's out of context, it's even better. Okay.
Are you suggesting that we take things literally?
If you are going to steal, then you have more time to return it if you take it early in the year. So yeah, take it literally, always.
Yeah, and if you still
So-
late it in the year, then you can go, oops, I forgot to return it in time.
Yeah, and if you
And also
return it,
not
then you
pay
don't have to pay
taxes because
taxes.
you stole
Yeah.
it. Anyway, so
Anyway, moving on. Okay. So we're so there's spring cleaning. Becca, I find like the beginning of the year, and I'm just gonna give my short, I'll shut up
yes,
after
please.
that. When I have clients who are like looking to plan or get things together, I always say this time of year is really good because they're getting all those year-end documents in the mail. They're probably getting a lot of notifications. They are, getting things together for their taxes anyway. So that
Mhm.
tiny account that paid like 2 cents in interest, is like, oh, maybe I should close that. Maybe I should do something else. Or, it's just like, then it comes to front of mind. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of do an assessment of what you have because
Mhm.
everybody's sending you a lot of things, all the times anyway. I am all for any small incremental steps anyone can do to make their life easier. In my mind, spring cleaning isn't necessarily just about getting rid of shit,
Right, it's
right?
not. Yeah.
It's about having less things, right? So having 8 bank accounts with different banks can be very just overwhelming and just to remember, and overdraft fees. And you
Mhm.
don't want to close something for no reason, right? You don't want to like just consolidate for the sake of consolidation, but it's worth asking, okay, it was a good idea at the time, right? You open this, you open that, you moved, you open that, and then if you close the account this year, well, then you'll have one less tax form to deal with in the future. You'll have one less thing to log in with, right? You'll have having, less places to go to manage things is so much easier, right? Than having, 8 different, places to go and check, being able to log into my bank account and see all of my accounts, right? Not needing all the different logins.
Yep.
Things like that can really help keep a better eye on things. So that's my.
Yeah. And I'm going to follow suit and say, that's exactly what I was thinking about when I was thinking spring cleaning, because you get all this paper, right? And it's always so overwhelming to just organize your paperwork for the taxes. Do I need this paper this person sent me? Did they just have to send it? Did I save all the right things? Do I have all that stuff? And just getting all of those things together. And it really forces you to look at that stuff. And since it's not a favorite thing for a lot of us, you might as well do all that thinking about it at once, right? Like when you're doing it all together. And I like one of the kind of tips that I love. One of the tips that I sort of use the most, I guess, or what I just feel like is my cute little hack. I was once advised that once a year, you should call your credit card company and just ask nicely if they can lower your APR. And a lot of times, without you noticing, they do raise your APR, but you can call the credit card company and ask them to review that for you. And you may end up with a lot lower APR rate. And so that's like a small way to save money, but it's something that over the year costs you a lot of money, right? And so I do that like with my taxes. I do that every year and things like that. So I'm thinking about ways like that too, not just consolidation, but ways that you could be thinking about, well, where am I spending money that I don't need to be, and where could I, spend it better,
Yeah, and I think we've said, we're talking about budgeting and stuff before, like, don't feel like ashamed. I mean, the government gave you a stimulus because they want you to spend it. They're actually mad if you save it, right? That's not, they want it to be used. I mean, obviously, saving it, paying down debt is good. but given this one was 1,400, right? If you're going to save some, should spend it on something a little, nice, right? You should reward yourself a little bit. It's been a whole year of all this. I mean, I really strongly feel that way. So and maybe invest in
the
yourself.
whole idea behind
Yeah.
the stimulus and the whole thing is just that we're trying to stimulate our economy, and if we don't put money back into it, we won't get money back out of it. And so we have to do that. But yeah, those are the kinds of things that I was thinking about. So do you guys do? Does anybody have things that they regularly do once a year, little tips or tricks that they use to sort of kind of check in on everything and then consolidate or save money somewhere or things like that? Anybody?
So, and I'm just going to keep throwing out things, but please feel free to, interrupt me. How many people are all paper or all electronic for like all their filing? And how many people are just a mix of both?
I'll say I'm a mix of both. I like paper, but my husband likes electronic, and I don't do really that paperwork because it gives me anxiety. So we do electronic, except for the stuff coming from my business, which is all on paper.
I think it's good to have, if you're going to have paper and electronic, it's good to have equal amounts of both. But I also think it's really important to, not, if you're going to get electronic, have everything also be electronic. It can be paper too. But I think you miss things if you can't remember what you're getting in the mail versus what you're not getting in the mail. Also, this year, especially the post office, it was taking weeks for things to arrive late. I don't know if that was other people were having that experience as well through USPS. Maybe it was just around where I am, but it was taking a long time. So definitely good for record purposes to,
Actually,
yeah.
I have a question about that. So you say it's been taking a while for postage around the country to arrive. I find that interesting because there was a package that my family ordered that was supposed to arrive, I think at least a week ago, but it got stalled in Phoenix and there's been no information on it since March 9th. What I'm wondering about is if this is a national thing with the post office or is something else that's going on. It's causing it big shipment delays.
Yeah, they've been really bad. Even letters an hour away have taken 2 weeks. I'm not making that up. So
Wow.
I think it's starting to get a little bit better.
Last year, DeJoy, the head of the post office, he had made everyone disassemble their mail sorting machines. My family works for the post office, and those machines were not stored either. So even though we have a new president who does want the post office, we can't just put those machines back together. They don't go back together. They were just disassembled and just discarded.
Wow. That explains a lot.
That's so upsetting to know.
I'm glad you guys told me because that explains a lot of what's going on with package delays.
They're also trying to shut down a lot of local hubs where they sort mail, including the main hub in the state of Rhode Island. There's only one, and they want to close it. Basically, they're trying to force us into privatized mail.
So another fun fact that nobody cares about is that you actually can't ship alcohol through the post office because this was prior to prohibition when they were trying to limit alcohol and UPS and FedEx didn't exist. So actually you can ship FedEx or UPS alcohol, but you can't use the post office. It's illegal still from like 100 years ago. So
Wow.
Weird. Nobody cares. But now you know. So
I'm sorry. When I do my taxes, I usually use Associate Planning Service in Groton, Connecticut to do my taxes, and they do it electronically, but I usually get the copy in paper.
that's pretty common. I'm sure if you wanted to get a copy electronic and save it securely, in addition to that they would send it to you. The final return at the end of the day is, good to have paper. I like having both. So
Dude,
makes
I
it-
hear my grandfather's voice. He was an accountant like way back when, and he just would, I think he would probably be saying, you know, you can file it electronically, but you better save that paperwork somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is that idea that, like, as much as we want to give over and give in to electronic, like, I don't know, being able to shove a piece of paper in someone's face is proof is always the thing we kind of want to hang on to. And so I think that's why there are things that I still like getting in paper.
and if you get any communication from the IRS, you need to keep it. Just because they sent it to you doesn't mean they will have a record of it, by the way. So I've been through that and I ended up finding it later. They said we didn't owe them money for something. We didn't throw away the letter, but we just couldn't find it. And then they came back to us and they said, "Oh no, you do owe us money for this." And we said, "Well, you told us I didn't. You guys sent us the letter. Can't you just like look that up in your system?" And
right.
the answer is apparently no. They need a copy of that back to them. So we ended up finding it, but I would have thought that the IRS would have a record of the letter they had sent me a year or two ago. So don't assume that they do. I'm just like, and again, anyone like interrupt me. I'm just spewing tax stuff that comes to my mind right now.
Because I got a paper receipt from the IRS saying that I got my 600 stimulus, which I did. So they sent me a copy of the receipt.
Save everything.
Save everything.
Yep. So, what are my other tips? And this is, so does anyone here, so who else other than like, let's say like me and Becca, who files at least some part of taxes as a Schedule C sole proprietor, like gig economy, like not a W-2? How many other people fall into that category in here? Like even like, you know, Uber Eats or just 1099, you know, any of that, something that's
Yeah.
not a W-2.
I think we do because we we're independent consultants. So I think I always have a mix,
Yep.
you know, form kind of thing.
Yeah.
So one thing I always right now I have to I'm not an accountant, right? Which also makes it more fun because then I feel like I can give advice because like I'm not the accountant, like I'm not like the response. I can be a little bit more realistic and free with my advice. Take every deduction you can. You cannot get in trouble. I find that there are so many people who are very anxious and scared of like an IRS audit that they count themselves out of money. I've had clients who are like, who felt that refund was too big. So they actually fraudulently made their expenses lower so they got less money back because they didn't want to be audited because they got too much money back. And I find it's usually the nicest people who do that, right? They just feel like, now, remember what I said about income, right? You got to report, you know, you're selling heroin, you got to report it. You steal stuff, you got to report it. You go to jail otherwise, okay? But when it comes to deductions, the worst the IRS can do is say no. That's it, right? If you're entitled to it, take it. And if you did it with good intentions and you find out that you're not entitled to it, they're just going to ask for you to pay it back. But what I find is people are underdoing their deductions, right? And they don't feel, you know, when it goes through and you feel like, oh, my refund is like too big, right? Or I'm afraid to take a deduction for this. And, you know, those are the people who should really be taking the deductions. I mean, don't go overboard. Don't claim things that aren't true, but don't discount, you know, for example, most audits are not like full audits, like the IRS just comes to your house, right? Most audits are, you said you went to school so you're getting a tuition deduction. Can you just show us proof of that?
Mhm.
Right? They just have checks and balances with an automated computer system for the audit. So like, there's nothing with an audit to be scared of, right? And
Mhm.
most of the time, I mean, for one, the IRS is too busy to really audit like anything anyway. Most of it's the double checking of the computer systems. But I find way too many people who are, really hurting themselves for this
Mhm.
fear of an audit when, just because they feel, that they shouldn't, right? That they shouldn't like get this much money back, that this was too much money back, or that, they shouldn't get this deduction, or that, no, if the rules say you can do it,
Yeah.
if it's true, take the deduction. When in doubt, take it. Remember, the worst they can do is say no.
Mhm.
But if you steal something, that one you got to report.
Yeah. Better be
So,
honest real fast.
Got to
on
be
that.
honest about that one. Yep.
Yeah, I
Well,
actually
what
had
are some
something.
examples of some deductions and stuff, like some common deductions, maybe some ones that people forget? I know I'm always trying to remember the right ones because my business and my home are shared. And so I do get to take deductions off my home because I technically rent out my office space from myself and all kinds of like that stuff, internet connection. And I'm always trying to remember things like that. What are some other ones that maybe some other folks aren't thinking about?
Well, if you gave they got rid of a lot of deductions with the Trump, they actually made it simpler in a lot of ways, unless you're self-employed. But some other last year, if you gave to charity, I think up to $200 or $300 a year, you could deduct that without itemizing. So for everyone who gave to Autism Career Pathways last year, you can get a deduction. That is Macy's nonprofit. I hence the call out. Anyway, okay. So, but no, I would, and I think they might have extended that to this year. I can't really remember. Other ones are if somebody has an IRA, if you're eligible for something called the Savers Credit. It's if you have a lower income and you put money in an IRA or an ABLE account, the government basically matches like an employer up to $2,000. So
I got a question.
Yeah.
What the hell is an ABLE account? I've never heard of it.
How long have I known you, Sarah? And how long have I been doing presentations on ABLE accounts? You haven't attended
I
one of my
know,
like
but
50
my mom-
present-
My mom has looked into something because she thinks I'm not into like the right sort of doing of ABLE accounts. She doesn't think I'm good for ABLE accounts. So she like thinks I'm like more into like a trust fund.
Yeah, I can talk more about it later, or I have like 50. It's a savings account for individuals with disabilities to help them maintain benefits, essentially. But
But
if
you have to
you're
have a diagnosis before age 26, is it, or something like that?
not diagnosis, the disability had to have occurred prior to 26. So
I'm 31, so I don't know how that's
Well,
gonna work.
no, but you didn't get autism at 31, right? You've had
I
it
got
since
at
you were
13.
born.
No, but
Well, no, you got
we looked
but you
into it once and they said that it had to be documented at that
Nope.
age. And if it wasn't,
I'm 1,000,000% positive. I give ABLE presentations to attorneys and around the country, and I have an ABLE account. So it's the disability occurred. It can be documented or diagnosed after. So anybody with an autism diagnosis, the disability occurred prior to age 26. So you qualify regardless of when you found out or knew. 100% positive.
Cool.
So,
And what kind of proof do we have to show? Just like a diagnostic report from the clinician?
yeah, I mean, I really don't think anyone's checking it. Actually, I'm just going to share a link in the chat really quick. Hold on. I have a template letter anyone can use. So let me just going to share this really quick. So, and you could open it. If you're not on any sort of government benefits, there's a good chance it doesn't make sense. I mean, it could. And then the other part is, but there is that savers credit too. And that's if you file your own taxes in your lower income, it might be some free money as well. So I'm just sharing this here in the chat.
What is that called? A Savers what?
Savers credit,
Savers credit. Oh, okay.
correct. So this link is full disclosure. This is a letter my doctor wrote me and that I use, so I know that it works. So I just deleted out the info. So something like that, you just send in, or any report. I really don't think they really care, to be blunt with you, but I'm supposed to tell you that you're supposed to do that.
Right.
So
I mean, since it is for folks that are receiving benefits, usually the fact that you're receiving benefits means somebody checked on you a whole bunch first.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so the savers credit is really cool. So if you check to see if you qualify, because I know somebody who puts in $1,000 and the government gave her $1,000. And the best part is she invested it basically in Tesla like 5 years ago. So now her $1,000 is $10,000 and she got the $1,000 credit. It's like my wife's one of her friends. And so that's like a really like fun story. And then she's like, oh man, I should have put like so much more in it. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Always could have made, better choices when looking back. But it's really important to know that, you won't always make, the right choices, and it's just learning from them. So,
Right. And getting tips and stuff from people who you can trust and things like that. I've been really trying to think about the ways that we sort of extraneously spend money. I don't know what the right word is for it, but like the ways that you sort of spend money and you're not thinking about. Like I saw an example, like your Amazon Prime membership, right? Like you pay for that once a year and things like, and there are lots of those kinds of memberships that we agree to, or maybe you did a trial and then you got signed up for the membership automatically and now you're stuck in it, right? I used the springtime to do those things too, to like unsubscribe myself from things and like catch those kinds of things.
So Becca, do you know what I'm gonna say?
What?
No, there's the app. I think I mentioned it last time, called Truebill. That exists just for that, right? And it'll help you. Not only will it help you let you know what you've subscribed to, but it'll help you unsubscribe as well. I posted a link to that in the chat, a link to download Truebill for your phone. So that's a really good one. But some memberships are important, if they make you happy too, right? Like,
right.
Think about all of the time that, I like to equate things to like how much time of enjoyment and or use I will get out of something. So if I'm spending, actually, I don't want to probably tell anyone how much time we spend watching Netflix a month, but the point is, for like $15 a month, like the return on investment, like could almost not be better, right?
Yep.
Even video games, let's say they're expensive, $60, right? But if you play that hours for months, right? That's a lot of, that's a lot more enjoyment than,
Pizza or something. Like food kills me.
Exactly, right? Like
I was just gonna say, especially if like a gamer who invests the gaming and then makes a YouTube channel and then makes gamers go and subscribe to their channel and like play games and then invest in their projects and making money off it.
And
that's gonna be
in the perfect world.
in the perfect world of gaming.
But
I still haven't gotten there yet.
But see, that brings up an interesting point where like a hobby can look to become almost a business. And that can get scary territory for two reasons. One is it can take the fun sometimes out of it, right? So, but not only can it take the fun out of it, but then also, right, how are you looking at, the activity? Why are you doing it? So for example, if there's an activity where you have fun, but you break even. So I'll use a great example. I like to play poker. Okay. And I like poker tournaments, and, $60 poker tournament, right? For like hours of entertainment, right? Sometimes I lose, sometimes I win. I probably about break even in the long run. So in my mind, I have fun in a hobby that doesn't cost me money. Right? I don't expect to make money and play poker. Even if I lost some money, that would be okay. Right? But the second I turn it into, I want to make lots of money doing something I enjoy, I think that's where you can sometimes cross the line of, then you're no longer, enjoying it. So I
Would
think
that be like also a gambling addiction too, or am I thinking something else?
it could be, or even does anyone know what a cricket is? Like the printing vinyl and making things, and so my wife Jessica has been like making things with like this machine. She bought it for her and for fun, and then lots of people have been asking her to make things, right? Too, and it wasn't about the making money. Now, she's getting so many orders and so many things like that. And my question to her keeps being, well, are you still having fun? Right. You've paid for your machine. So now we're at the free hobby territory, which again, any free hobby is pretty good, but you don't want to be at the point where you lose enjoyment and get burned out, either with the things that you enjoy.
So it's much more about utility than having fun status. For example, many people bought Blu-ray, DVD, many devices. You download music, for example. So it's not about having it. Or wealth. It's about using it. So how much do you spend on it? How long do you spend on it?
Becca, I'm gonna let you take this one for me. This one's all you. So.
Yeah,
it means time. It doesn't mean how much you can pay for something. It means how long do you use it.
Okay, so I think that's a fair way. Some people look at it that way, right? And that's kind of how Andrew was looking at it too, right? He's saying, well, yeah, it's $60 for a video game, but I get so much entertainment out of this video game that it's worth the $60, right? That it pays itself back. What we don't want to do is go say, oh, I want to play video games, and go buy yourself the most expensive video game system ever, right? And invest in it that way. That you do it kind of out of line. You want to make sure that you kind of get into any kind of hobbies, I would say a little bit slowly, like don't jump into expert stuff and things like that. But when we are thinking about where to spend our money, we always have to go back to our priorities as people, right? Like for me, I will never, ever, ever skimp out on buying a book, right? That's the one thing that I allow myself. It's the one thing that I always enjoy. And I will, pay, $20 for a hardcover if I want to read it right away, right? And that's one place where I allow myself that freedom. But at the same time, I'd never let myself not have money for groceries because I was busy buying books. And I think that's where we have to draw the line. Like, what are your needs and priorities versus what is extraneous, right? What's extra to your life?
For example, here in Brazil, I don't know, how about in the US? Cable TV, people used to have a lot. I have to hear because my parents watch a lot, because nowadays, it's not because of the pandemic. They are retired nowadays, so they want to enjoy their time, so they watch it. But nowadays, for example, you can only buy ESPN. You can buy only HBO. You don't hire the whole plan. You just hire 2 channels that you watch, and you watch on TV. So many people do it, but there is one problem. If you sign, sorry, for example, if I hire only ESPN, I must have a really good internet. If you don't have, you won't watch it. There are many variables that you have to pay attention. The same Netflix. If you don't have a really good, if you don't have a really good internet, I don't know how about in the West about the 5G. Here, Brazil, 5G, we barely have 4G here. 4G barely works for me, but I don't know how about in the West. So that you have these variables. Watching TV, TV is better. You will pay more. You'll spend much more money, but you have quality. If you hire ESPN, for example, watch ESPN, HBO Max, you must have a really good internet service. Otherwise, you will pay less, spend less money, but the quality might be worse.
Right. And I think that's a choice that we make, right? I mean, that's again a priority decision. If, you know, watching ESPN is something that's a really high priority to you, then it's worth investing in the good internet, and it's worth investing in, you know, buying the channel for however long you want it, right? And I think that's how we have to make our decisions. The thing is, we don't want to be thinking only about the stuff that we want, right? We want to make sure that we're taking care of what we need also, and finding that balance. So sometimes we'd like to get the nicer thing for our hobby, but you can't swing it, right? You just can't do it because there's other things that you have to make a priority as well. And that's, you know, a really personal choice. That's how you prioritize your life.
And there's nothing wrong with like wanting something and having something to look forward to as well. Right. I think that's really, you know, positive in a lot of ways, like even just having like a trip or, you know, really anything just to look forward to, you know, is nice. I think because then if you, I mean, you always want something to look forward to, right?
Yeah. Here in Brazil, I don't know about in the West, but here in Brazil we have some, I don't know the name in English, but I will say like, it's a story that, for example, you have one person riding the donkey, and you put one carrot in front of him, and then the donkey pursues the carrot.
Yeah.
And once he gets once the person arrives, he doesn't give the carrot for the donkey, and the donkey gets upset. So why did you do this with me? You fooled me. But on the other hand, the person gave food and water for the donkey. So it's a reward. For example, we pursue one goal, but sometimes we can get much more than the carrot only exclusively. We can get the food and the water. So when we plan a travel, we have a goal, we seek something, but on the path we can have something better, much better than we imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we have like 15 minutes left. Does anybody have any other questions or ideas or things that they do or think about in terms of tax time, in terms of kind of cleaning out your finances or getting them organized and stuff? Any other questions for Andrew about taxes?
Actually, one thing I actually am curious to know about it. I know earlier you talked about how the government won't be happy if you don't spend your stimulus check. Well, how would it feel if you spent half of it but not all of it, or if you saved half of it but you didn't spend all of it? What's your take on that?
I mean, I'm speaking generally across everyone. You as an individual, they probably don't care that much. I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, like they want to, stimulus is meant to, again, stimulate the economy to go out and help support the restaurants and buy it. You should still do what's best for you, right? I mean, I would say just in general, I think if you got the $1,400 check, unless you really have, like, let's say a lot of debt that you need to pay down or something that you really need to use it for. I think
Something you're
spending,
saving for.
yeah, but
right?
yeah, I would spend half on something nice or close to it, right? And then I would, save the other half. I think that's a good idea. So,
Mhm.
it's bigger than the other ones too. So, spend half, save half, should enjoy some things as
Yeah,
well.
it's
Yeah,
like
and I would say too, think about where you're spending it, right? Maybe
Yeah.
don't go to Amazon and spend it there, and maybe support a local business, right? That maybe could use their support better, right? So thinking about that, because the hope behind it is that we all start spending money again, so the economy picks up. So yeah, if you feel like you would feel better about spending it if it went and did something great, donate it somewhere, or you can go and spend it at a business that you'd like to see succeed and things like that. So you can think a little bit more about where you spend it. But I agree with Andrew. I mean, we're being given it so that we can get our economy up and going.
So it's
and-
much
Yeah.
more about investment than expending money, or spending, and you have some investment means you get the return for the result. Your putting all the energy. Energy means money.
It's interesting points, all right.
So
I know what
well,
I know
sorry,
what
go
I'm
ahead,
gonna do.
Becca.
Oh, sorry. I know what I'm gonna do with my other stimulus check. The stimulus check that's coming in. I'm probably just gonna save half of it and put it in one of my savings account, and probably because I gotta pay for a class in the upcoming semester. It's a math class that I have to pay out of pocket because I tried it and withdraw twice already, and I got to pay out of pocket now for the math class. So I'm gonna save that money for that class, and I'm gonna save some money for my other classes because my financial aid is running out. So
Good. So those are some good choices, right?
yeah,
And different
for
ways that
school
we could
at
be
least.
thinking about what to do with this money that is now going to appear in our accounts, right? Because it's important. It's important, I think, for us to look at the big picture of what it means to get the stimulus money, right? What it means for us to get it, and then what we use it for is important, right? And so I like that we're talking about that, because I think there's lots of different ways that we all feel about it. There's some people that feel like, oh, it's free money, or some people feel like, oh, it's all our tax money anyway, give it back to me. And some people feel, all different about it. And so I think, however you need to process that, right? Like I'm somebody, there's part of me that would like to go and like indulge on something. And then part of me that knows I should invest it in myself and what I want to do. And then part of me that just is like, I don't know, it feels dirty, and part of me wants to give it away. So I don't know. I feel complicated about it. I'm one of those people. And so I will probably choose to spend it on a local business that I know is struggling now, just to kind of assuage some of those feelings about it.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
and I
going
thi-
to, sorry, I'm going to go back to find your recording on Bitcoin and learn about it, and maybe put some money on Bitcoin,
Right?
Bitcoin and E-Trade, which I've never done before. We've never done
So,
that.
Well, it's
I
a good
think,
thing to experiment, right? Here's money
Yeah.
that you,
Yeah.
you could use to experiment and figure it
Right.
out.
and I think, if everyone got the stimulus, if you don't have a savings account, enable a Roth IRA, Bitcoin, whatever, if you can even just take $100 of that just to get started, and then even, that will not be the end. That's not everything. But if, everyone could take, at least, $100 and save it at a minimum, no matter where you are, I think that would be really, really good. Once you get in the habit of starting to do it, it's a lot easier.
I agree.
So,
Anybody else with any input for our last 8 minutes?
Yes, about tax and saving money. I don't know if it's the main goal of this conversation, but I just remember the movie The Accountant with Ben Affleck, when he presented an autistic on the spec on
That was a
autistic
horrible
accountant.
movie.
Why?
They made him out to be like an active shooter.
Ah, so yes, and
And
the way I will say about the way he managed, he was with the couple and he just said, why don't you do this to save money and do something else? He people hired him to save money, to spend less money on taxes, and they would spend better money. And he was really good on that. So in the
and he was
movie.
like a
And,
savant or something.
What?
A savant. So
In
yeah.
math.
Yes, and in some way, I don't know how much do you spend it on it, but here in Brazil, people spend a lot of money on big names on accountancy to spend less money to pay less taxes for the government,
Right.
because
Yeah,
here
yeah.
we I don't know how about the relation, but here in Brazil we are the people that pay the highest average of money on taxes. We are the people, Brazil people here in the world, considering the whole world, the highest taxes are here in Brazil. So, and we don't get the right service from the government, from the state. So people prefer spending money on accountants to save money, to have with them. Then they prefer spending money on an accountant than pay for the state, because we won't have a good healthcare, an expected healthcare service, an expected public education. So I don't know how do you measure it in US with this paying taxes for the state and they don't give you back.
Right. Yeah. Well, it always
All I
feels that
know-
way for sure.
All I know is my brother, he's a finance and accountants and masters, and he works for Bloom.
Okay. I think I've heard of Bloom. I think they advise on like 401ks, etc.
Yeah, they're
people.
switching over their name from Bloom to something else. But he used to
Okay.
work for McLavery and Ernst and Young, and yeah, all that.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Cool.
it's not like I don't have a support system. My brother's my financial accountant, and Casey, one of my parents die or whatever.
Right. Well, I think, I don't know, these days it's all, so much of it is electronic, all the filing is electronic. So I think less people are using fancy accountants, but I do think that the more money you have, the fancier your accountant, I guess I want to say.
Yeah, and I'll say for a lot of people, I mean, the taxes and the math are intimidating, but a lot of there's accountants who really add numbers together, and a software makes that really easy. But I think a lot of people hope and or expect their accountant to like save them lots of money on taxes and find these loopholes or things like that. And my experience has been that is not the majority of accountants. And that are, a lot of accountants are more almost like bookkeeper, right? They add numbers together, but, and there are some, right? But I think a lot of people kind of expect their accountant to like tell them, do all this magic. And not only is there not that much magic necessarily to do anymore, right? Software at this point can like spit that out, or you go through TurboTax, it asks you the right questions. And in a lot of ways, doing it yourself might be better because, the question pops up, the accountant could just skip over that, figure maybe you told them, right? But TurboTax might, walk you through it. So it's a lot more, I think, attainable and then, you know, a lot of people realize.
They're paying a huge amount of money for it, so he's using online software this time.
Yeah, and a lot of software is free to file, at least like federally, or the state's really cheap. And you know, simpler the better. And you know, just be honest, right? Take every deduction you're entitled to. I mean, you should never be afraid of that. So
Well, some really, really good advice today, Andrew. I really appreciate it. That was some good stuff. And I hope it gets you guys thinking. I know I have like 4 links open on my computer right now that I have to go and read through from today. So I hope you guys got some stuff out of it too. Not 100% sure what we're talking about next month, but we'll let you know when we know. If you have any suggestions, you can always reach out and let us know, and that kind of stuff.
Can I talk
Otherwise, we'll
about
see you
life
guys.
insurance?
Maybe, yeah, send an email to one of us. That way we kind of keep track of what you guys are sending in, and we'll try to cover it one of the months coming up.
Life or health insurance, I'm like more importantly, life or health.
I love talking about life insurance. It's one of like my special interests. So like, you know,
Okay,
which
we'll
I'm like,
talk about that.
thankfully I'm like the only person on the planet who feels that way. So, but yes, I'd be happy to talk about life insurance.
I think that's a good idea. Life insurance.
Okay, great. Well, we
So-
appreciate the suggestions. I've got to get going because I have someplace to be right now. So I will see you guys next month. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Next month.
Bye.